Destiny 2 surprised me, in more ways than one. Coming into this game way after everyone else feels like I'm stepping into a pre-established world, not only with the lore, but with the community as well. Everybody else knows what's going on and I'm left to pick up the pieces. For a moment this seems almost mystical, but the wonder wears off quickly. Destiny 2 without a doubt must be one of the worst new player experiences I have ever dealt with. However, that isn't the only thing I wish to discuss with this video. I want to dissect the game as a whole. I think my perspective, a New Light's perspective, if you will, is a unique lens to view the game on. Most other players have nostalgia and thousands of hours that can create a sort of fog towards their opinion on the game. I'll be looking at the new player experience, the story, core gameplay loop, and gunplay to formulate an opinion on whether the game is good or not. Let's start off with the story of Destiny 2. This game has a vast amount of lore, and it is comparable to the enriched lore of the Elder Scrolls series. Honestly, both games go about story in a similar way. In the Elder Scrolls games, you have a main story where the lore is sprinkled here and there, but the real chunk of the lore is hidden away in books. Only the true lore masters will go and take the time to uncover the secrets of the world. This is very Dark Souls-esque, except in Dark Souls there really isn't a main campaign, whereas the Elder Scrolls games tend to have a main campaign, and so does Destiny 2. The mainline story that Destiny 2 has is directly tied to the campaign and seasonal content each expansion, which, mind you, is incredibly short. Most of the gameplay you'll be doing in Destiny 2 has nothing to do with the current story. This creates a disconnect, especially for returning players or new players. I had to watch a 3-hour lore video because there was no way for me to get the information I needed to have in the game. The truth is, Bungie has something special when it comes to the story. It's an awesome world, and the actual Light and Dark saga is something straight out of Star Wars. The main issue is the delivery. I wish there was a campaign section on the screen where you could play the whole campaign from start to finish, if you have the respective DLC of course. This would allow for players to go back and get a real connection to the story. The gameplay direction Bungie is taking their game seems to allow for more integrated stories. The Witch Queen was honestly very well done. I still felt a disconnect from the story being told and the gameplay at hand, but it is a step in the right direction. Overall, for what Destiny 2 is trying to be, the story could have been much worse than it is. Most players wouldn't have really known the difference. I think it should be applauded that Bungie still puts so much effort into something that 80% of the player base probably doesn't care about. The story is great, but it is never the driving point for players to play the game. The main driving force that keeps players coming back over and over again is the absolutely addicting gameplay loop.
What are you doing? Huel! Hey, quit screwing around. We are here to do a job, not channel Scrooge McDuck. You hearing me?
I hear you.
Dude. Screw it.
The core gameplay loop is Destiny's biggest strength and its biggest weakness. This game is designed in a way where either it's the most addictive game you can play, or it's the most boring snooze fest of your life. Destiny 2 is a looter shooter. Basically, it's just Borderlands, but it's an MMO and it has consistent updates. I have a love-hate relationship with the gameplay loop of this game. On one hand, I adore the grind, but on the other hand, I feel like sometimes I'm only playing because of FOMO, or the fear of missing out. The biggest hurdle for me was once I reached Pinnacle Light level. This was my first season of Destiny 2, and I was told by almost everyone that the first thing I should do is get to Pinnacle Light level. This was an awesome experience for me. The Pinnacle Loot is dropped by certain things each week, so it gives you a lot of variety, and it's Bungie's way of guiding you through the grind. But after I reached Pinnacle Light level, I no longer had a reason to do those tasks, and I realized that I really don't know what else I'm supposed to do. This was when I really wanted to quit the game. I had no sense of direction or sense of purpose for playing. The only thing I wanted was to get Touch of Malice, which you can only do King's Fall 3 times a week anyways, so as directionless as I felt, I really did not want to keep playing Destiny 2 anymore. That was until Trials of Osiris came out. This being my first season, I had only heard about Trials of Osiris. I didn't really truly understand what it was. For those of you who don't know, Trials of Osiris is the competitive pool for the PvP playlist. The goal is to go flawless or win 7 games in a row. This was a breath of fresh air for me. I tried going flawless the first weekend it launched, but I couldn't manage to do it. Remember how I felt directionless? Well, now I have a goal, and it was to go flawless. The biggest issue I had was everyone else had these god rolls and these maxed out weapons and these god roll maxed out armors. Watching these players just destroy me actually gave me a new PvE purpose as well. I felt directionless playing PvE. I didn't really have anything else I needed to do because I was Pinnacle Light level. What else is there to do? And before I played Trials of Osiris, I really didn't care about the loot. People would talk about, oh, I got the god roll for this, and it's like, okay, well, you can kill things a little better, but I don't really care. But with Trials of Osiris, now I want that god tier loot. I want that god roll armor. I want the best loot to give me the best advantage to reaching my goal, and that goal is to go flawless in Trials. After a little bit of grinding that weekend, the next week I went flawless in Trials. I achieved my goal. But there was more to that. I had so much fun playing Trials of Osiris that now my new goal and current goal of the game is to get the flawless title. The biggest issue Bungie has with Destiny is giving their players a sense of purpose. The quest system is horrible and most of the seasonal content is boring, other than getting new gear. Players are forced to get a personal purpose by either being a collectionist, which I sadly as a new player cannot collect everything in the game, so that's kind of out for me. There are those raid-only team players that only play with their friends and get on and hop on raids. And then there's PvPers. Overall, Destiny 2's gameplay loop is addicting and amazing as long as you have that sense of purpose. Sadly, you have to make your own because Bungie does not really incentivize it. While we were talking about gameplay, I think we should also discuss the amazing gunplay. Destiny 2 does not work fundamentally if the gunplay was not as good as it was. Destiny 2 is tedious, repetitive, and sometimes straight up boring. Grinding these weapons can get boring. The only thing that keeps me coming back is hitting disgusting headshots with something like a sunshot and watching all the other enemies blow up. It makes me feel like an absolute badass. No other game makes me feel like the main character of an anime as much as this does. The truth is, Destiny really is an awful game from a gameplay and design perspective. But the gunplay and movement are just on a whole other level that makes this game so compelling to me. We've talked about the story, gameplay, and gunplay. All that is left is to talk about the biggest elephant in the room, and that is the new player experience. The new player experience is like slightly spoiled milk. You don't want to drink it, but you probably would if it was your only choice. As a new player coming into this franchise, I got to experience firsthand how horrid it is for new players. There are no tutorials for armor mods or even how to obtain them, which is only 801. Go watch my 801 video for more info on that. The game is so directionless for players who know what all the options are, so this is just ramped up by 1,000 if you're a new player. The only saving grace in my experience was the Pinnacle Loot. The Pinnacle Loot for each raid and each activity, it gave me a reason to do them. As a new player, I had no reason to play Last Wish, but it was Pinnacle this one weekend, so I got some friends on and played it and tried it out, and that experience was awesome. I wouldn't have done that as a new player if it wasn't for Pinnacle Loot. Same goes for Duality, which is a dungeon, and all of these other things. Playing Crucible, for example, I would have never touched Mayhem if it wasn't for Pinnacle Loot. This video is about my experience, as someone who has no nostalgia or experience with Destiny, and honestly, I believe that the jumbled new player experience is why people don't pick up this game. I believe if you get past all the flaws, Destiny is a pretty good game. I actually am really enjoying myself. Luckily, Bungie is aware of this, and they're going to be heavily overhauling the armor and build system, and the new player experience as a whole. It's honestly a shame. If I knew about these changes beforehand, I probably would have waited to play Destiny until Lightfall, instead of slamming my head into a wall learning all the mechanics. Honestly, when I was making this video, I was planning for this to be the big chunk of the video is talking about the new player experience, because honestly, it was terrible. I hated it, and there was so much I wanted to change, but the most important part is that Bungie understands this and that they're actually trying to change. And that's kind of the key thing with almost everything I've complained about. It seems like Bungie's actually heading in the right direction. From everything that I've read, Bungie has had a lot of power issues with Blizzard and Activision owning them. It was really hard for them to make the content that they wanted. They were really directed by Activision. And it wasn't until recently that they gained the power for themselves to be able to make the content they want to make. And it seems with Sony now backing them, it seems like Sony actually understands what Bungie needs to do, and that is to just be Bungie and just to make a good game. And I honestly think that this culminates into Destiny 2 being one of the best games to get into right now. Maybe wait until Lightfall if you're a new player, since they're going to be making the new player experience a lot better, but they're going to be bringing back all of the old content as well. It's a really good time to get into Destiny 2. And I am kind of happy, even though I did say previously that I wish I would have waited till Lightfall, I'm really glad that I got to get a glimpse into what Destiny was before. So now I'll be able to be the nostalgic one in a couple years and be like, back in my day, we didn't have no tutorials or anything. We didn't know how to get into the game. You know, I get a little glimpse of that, and I think that that's awesome. Anyways, I think this concludes my new light perspective on Destiny 2. It's a flawed game, a very flawed game, but it is backed by some of the best mechanics in any game I've ever played, so the flaws aren't as noticeable. And I plan on playing it for the next couple of years, hopefully. And if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to subscribe first, because I only have 270 subscribers at the time I'm making this video. I would really appreciate to get a bit more for this video, because I put a lot of effort in. But also, almost equally as importantly, please leave a like to show your support, because it helps out with the algorithm a bunch. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys.